Hi everyone, Jordan again. And this time I'm with another video using Google Apps Script triggers to provide instant feedback to students. This is an activity that um, one of the other teachers that I'm working with developed. Her name is Prasanna Heaton. Um, and the idea is that it kind of teaches kids about how to use a spreadsheet and reviewing percentages. Um, and it's kind of a multi-lesson thing that involves charts and a presentation. However, I found when I was substituting in one of the math classes that a lot of kids kind of make mistakes about where they type in formulas and those little bits of things that can be, you just need to kind of point them in the right direction. So I thought I would use triggers to solve that problem. And you'll see basically the idea of the lesson is you have an initial balance, you have a interest rate, and really, so I typed in the steps over here, and it checks them off as we go through. So interest rate, and then I want to calculate the interest for year one by multiplying B1 and C, or B2 and C2, and it should check that off. Perfect. Then I want to get a final balance, which is this plus the interest. Now, the next step is to set the initial balance for year two equal to the final balance for year one. However, I want to make sure that students are using the, the equations that are available, not just typing in the numbers. So if you type in 10,800, which is the final balance, you're going to get a little warning message saying it's not a formula. So we want this to be equal to the final balance here, and then that should give us, that should be acceptable, check us off the list there. Now, you've got enough information to use the fill tool to complete the table to year 20. So I'm going to go ahead and use this fill tool all the way down. Interest all the way to year 20, and then the final balance. That should give us the, that should fill in all the tools for us, and then check off step 5. So if you stay around after the cut, I'm going to show you how I build this tool. So stay tuned. All right, got the script editor open. Let's dive in. So I'm going to need 3 functions here, one of which is the onEdit trigger. I'm also going to want a function called, I'm just going to create the stubs here. So the other function is step complete. Leave that empty for right now, and then the last step is going to be mark complete. That's going to take in the parameters cell, and I actually want a 4th function, mark incomplete. And this is step complete is actually going to take in a range here. So the onEdit takes the event parameter. I'm going to pass range into is step complete. Mark complete is going to be going to pass in a cell. So how do we go about doing this? Well, really, all we're doing is using a little bit of logic to determine whether the right cells get modified. So the first thing I'm going to do is set a variable range equal to e.range. So I don't have to remember that it's on the event object. Basically, I'm just pulling range off of that event object. So I need an if and else statement going on here. In the if statement, this is going to be kind of a long one here. So I need to make sure that the field that gets changed is actually in this grid. So that's the first thing I want to check for. You know, if a student changes things outside of the grid, I don't want it to tell them it's not a formula. The only things I care about are this data table here. So we need to go ahead and create some logic for that. Range.getColumn is greater than or equal to 2, and I'm going to space this down. range.getColumn is less than or equal to 5, and range.getRow is greater than or equal to 2, and range.getRow is less than or equal to 21, and range, I need to move these back here. I don't like that spacing. Okay, range dot get A1 notation is not equal to B2. That's the B2 is this first cell here, where we want the student to type in a starting balance there, so we don't want to check if that's a formula. So, perfect. This is making sure that it's in the grid. Then, once we've made sure that it's in the grid, we actually want to ignore, we want to check and see if things are formulas. So, I'm going to space down a little bit here. And in fact, I'll comment here. Test if cells are formulas. And we're going to do if range.getFormula. Basically, getFormula is a method. It'll return the formula if there is one. Otherwise, it's going to return null, or sorry, an empty string if there is not a formula in there. So we want to say if it's an empty string, we know it's not a formula. But we're going to look and see, is it an empty string? And we want to check if its value is not, like if it's a empty string, that may be redundant here. I'm actually not sure. Maybe I put that in, but well, you can't, it doesn't hurt. Range.getColumn does not equal 3. Now the reason for this, the reason we're testing to see if it's column 3 is because of these percentages. We want to be able to type percentages anywhere into this column. We don't need these to be formulas. So while we're testing for formulas, we can just ignore that column there. So inside of this, we're going to do range.setNote, note, not a formula. Try again. And then we're going to set the background color. People don't always notice notes themselves. So let's change the background color to red. That's usually a good indication that something is wrong. Now, if it is not a formula and it's not an empty value, and it's not in the percentage column, that's what we do. Else, let's go ahead and define the logic for else. We want to do range.clearNote. If there is a note there, we're going to remove it. And then we're going to set the background back to normal. And you can do that with null. Set background null. And then I'm going to call the isStepComplete function, and I'm going to pass it this range. Now the reason for that, I could put the logic from isStepComplete in here, but we're already getting a little dense with this. This is actually probably needs to be refactored itself, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So we've got the logic here. I'm going to reposition these things here, just so that it's all lined up. See how we've got the, I like these brackets to be a little bit better lined up. So, and I'm going to erase this space here. Now in the else statement down here, we also want to call isStepComplete and pass it that range. Otherwise, we would have to put code down here also that kind of handles, that's being handled by the same process. Those are the perfect times to use functions, you know, when we can kind of remove some redundancies. And I'd love some suggestions in the comments below, kind of maybe give me some ideas for how we can streamline some of this logic up here. So if you decide to try this and you find a better way of doing it, please let me know. So let's go ahead and write out our function for is step complete. The way we can do that, we could write out an if else statement for every single one of these, but really we're just testing the exact same cells. So we want to mark when this cell gets filled in, we want to mark G1. When B1 gets marked or gets a value filled in, we want G1 to fill in as green. When D2 gets filled in, we want step 2 to complete. When E2 is so on and so forth. So what we're going to do here is create an array of those matching things, and I'm actually just going to copy those over instead of retyping all of that out. So we've got the steps here, and then I've just kind of matched up step 1 in G1 matches up with B2. Okay, and then we can loop through this array every time we hit this is step complete. We're going to loop through this array and check and see if we can mark a step complete or if we need to unmark a step as complete. So I'm going to type this whole thing out. Just talk about it quickly. Basically what it's doing, every time we hit this is step complete function in these two places, we're going to loop through this steps array, and then we're going to check and see if the value is null. If it is, we're going to mark it, if it's not, if the value is not empty, we're going to mark the step complete in whichever one of these we've got. And then if it's incomplete, we're just going to remove that nice little setting there. And let's go ahead and test out. I saved everything. I should have a working version of this now. Boom, there we go. Finish step 1. If I type in, let's just say 8%, and then let's equals this multiplied here. Oops, ref, circular dependency. It's not C2, it is, I want B2 multiplied by C2. There we go, 80. And then if I just type in 1080, it's going to tell me that it didn't use a formula. And that's really what I found students kind of overlooking the most. Hey, why doesn't my data table work like yours does? Because you didn't use the formulas like I showed you. So, got a good little warning for you here, how to prevent that from happening. We've got 1000 plus 80, and then we can quickly remove that little message. So, hopefully that helps give you some ideas about how to kind of use these triggers, provide some instant feedback for your students. Really, I think there is a kind of a cleaner way to kind of turn this, kind of make these if statements a little bit less cumbersome. See, I've got them in 3 lines and 4 lines here. I think that could be better. Let me know in comments below what you think. And keep on making stuff. Cheers.